All right, y'all know what it is. It's the Morning Hustle with L'Oreal and Kyle Santillian. And one of the things we love about this job is getting the opportunity to talk to different people about the things that they have going on in outside of the industry. And today we're talking about Tyler Perry's new documentary movie, Maxine's Baby. And the two people that we have online with us today are responsible for making this happen, Gelila Bekele and Armani Ortiz. How y'all feeling?
Hello.
Oh, great, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. No doubt. Maxine's Baby. Let's talk about it. I think this is
Yes.
a good thing. For years, we've been getting bits and pieces and snippets about Tyler Perry's life. You know what I mean? Why was it now the perfect time to come out and put a full-length documentary out giving all these details?
I mean, I think a film can come out anytime. I think art is timeless. But he's done so much and he's still dreaming. And, we meant to sort of end our documentary journey right when the studio opened in 2019. And then the pandemic hit. And of course, Tyler being Tyler, he created a new formula to be the first one to open his studio and start filming. So that was a whole another story.
Mm-hmm.
So we feel like it's in a good place right now where hopefully it can reach a lot of people who are inspiring to sort of create their own road.
Yeah,
And
for
it's crazy
sure.
because when we first hear about the Tyler Perry story, it almost feels like we all know it already. Like the first thing we say is, oh, we know he was homeless and now he's famous and rich. But then there's so many things that happened to him in his childhood that's extremely interesting that I don't want to give it all away because we want the people to go and watch it. But some things that I would have thought that he may not have even opened up about. Now, I know like you two have dated before in the past. Like, is that kind of the way that like you got him to open up more about that? Because I feel like for the most part, he's been pretty secretive about these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think I honor privacy. I think everyone has their own way of sort of revealing or not in their time. But I think you can start filming someone with a loving gaze. You can know someone for many years. Either you were linked with them romantically or as a family member. But I think the moment you put a camera on anyone's presence, naturally as humans, we sort of shrink. It's awkward. It's not a natural experience. But I think it's also, I think he was ready. He's in his 50s. I think he feels like there's a lot that's sort of misunderstood and missing from the story, at least for me. I started out sort of like a research of taking myself out of it and really trying to understand not only his origin, where he came from, where all his films and stories stem from, but also when we look at people like Tyler who have achieved so much, you see the end result, you see the celebration, and you know a little bit of the beginning. But that gray area, the middle, we often don't get to see, which is really where everything is worked out.
Right.
You don't just start your day from waking up in the morning and then flash forward to your evening. There's a lot that
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
Those quiet moments of like what goes into making something of yourself. So that was important. That's why it took us 10 years to dabble. And I don't think
Wow.
anything to do with the personal connection. I think us as filmmakers having the patience to film for 16 hours a day and really give it space to get to know him.
And Armani, you worked with Tyler for quite some time as well. Was there some
Yeah.
things that you found out during the documentary that you were surprised by?
Oh yeah, of course. You don't spend every single day 10 years and kind of like not get shocked and awed about a couple of things. But the most important one for me is that like the burden of sacrifice that he carries with himself every single day because of how he works and what he's building specifically here in Atlanta. He's giving opportunities to people that may have never had an opportunity. Like TP has always been someone that I've learned that believes in the underdog. He could have had anyone direct his documentary. He could have had any big name, but he decided to trust us. And we wanted to really be smart about how we honor that trust, how we are true a steward to his story. So that was the biggest thing for me, is like everything that he does is about other people as opposed to just him being successful.
One of the things to me that I feel like is a very important component about his story overall, like you were saying, Gelila, like the whole transition from this physical abuse, this emotional abuse that you've endured from childhood, and I guess rising above that to become who you become as a person. Like, which one of the stories in this documentary do you feel like is going to be one that stands out in that regard? That moment of triumph, that moment of, yes, this happened, but look how it propelled him into this.
I think it depends where you are in the stage of your life. I can look at this film many times, which I have, and each day is something that sort of sticks with me. I think if you're an entrepreneur and you're watching this and you see this man as a businessman and all the formulas he created to sort of pave a way for himself and for those who came after him, right? The 1090 deal, even acquiring an army base, what does that look like in practice, right? And if you are someone who sort of endured childhood trauma and you see your story and you see yourself, and how does practice, like, we can talk about love and healing and words and it sounds so light, but in practice it's very hard. I live in New York, and every time I get on the train someone is shoving me and I have to sort of swallow back and say, it's okay, maybe somebody's having a rough day. Even that lightness in that moment, it's a battle, right? So I feel like it's something for everyone, and it's also why we try to create a space for polarity, in inviting his critics. And even if you are one who who doesn't agree with his work, hopefully you hear your voice included in this film as well.
Now, we've seen some pretty big names included in this film, like Kenya Barris, like Whoopi Goldberg. Were these people that y'all reached out to, or did you have to get a little help from? I'm gonna call him TP because it sounds cool when y'all do it. Did you get a little help from TP? Did he have to reach out to these people?
No. Thankfully, through the process of filmmaking, we were able to show everyone involved that we were actually very serious about telling this man's story and telling it properly, not trying to exploit it. So I think it was kind of like a domino effect. Like, once we showed that his family members that we were actually very serious about, making this and showing him in the proper light, then it got us another interview, then it got us another interview. And then, finally the big dog, Oprah, we were able to get her. So it was great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How can I forget Oprah? Come on.
Right. But even with that being said, Armani, like, we're talking about people that want to make sure, like you said, they're speaking about him in the proper light. Were there any subjects that people were a little apprehensive about even touching on? Like, wait, I want to make sure I'm not.
No, for sure. No, the good thing about, like, especially how me and Gelila consider ourselves filmmakers, is when we were doing these interviews, throughout the 2-hour process, you may see 2 minutes of someone talking in its totality, but we sat down with every single person. We had over 30 interviewees, and we spent like 2 to 3 hours with each person. And, thankfully it started weaving this amazing story where we as filmmakers were able to see TP in a different light, because it's one thing to be with him every single day, which obviously we were very thankful for. But when you hear people close to him speak about him in different ways, speak about him in the past, speak about him, how he's grown, you really start seeing the portrait of a man in a different way, as opposed to just seeing his success.
Yeah.
One thing you made sure that y'all didn't include, though, and I think I read somewhere that you wanted the focus more so to be not surrounded around you guys' child, because you have a child together, Gelila, you and Tyler. So he talks a lot about his childhood and growing up. So I was a little surprised to see that he didn't talk about fatherhood coming from him, because like a full circle transition. But I did read somewhere where you're trying to keep your child out of the limelight right now. Is that how it's going?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still trying to figure out what fame does to people, for or to people, right? And I think as parents, you don't want your children to be like guinea pigs in that conversation. And we're civilians. I want to sort of keep it that way for as long as I can, But I think there is a conversation in fatherhood. In that film, you see sort of these 3 different generations of men, 2 men and a little boy. Tyler, I started filming when I was about 5 months pregnant, and seeing this boy grow up and asking his father, why do you work so hard?
Right. So that was your son in the film.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, see, so because you never saw his face, so I wasn't really sure. I'm like, is
No,
that just
that was
a
an
voice?
actor. We
Is that-
just put an actor in there.
That's what I thought it might have been. I promise you.
No. So you didn't see the part where they're like playing in the pillow.
I
making
did, but
toys
I was
and all
because
of
I
that.
read that you didn't want to incorporate. I just figured that y'all did
No,
maybe have
she's
an
in
actor.
there. And I
Okay,
think
okay,
it would
so
have
that
been
is
really odd. I think it would have been really odd not to include.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
his face is not fully recognizable.
Oh, I like that. I see what y'all did there. Then now I get it. That's a full circle moment right there.
Right.
Yeah, it's important. And also, like, we don't get to see Black men as being like in their natural state, as like
Yeah.
fathers. These like everyday moments of like just natural movements, you know. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be this flashy, gaudy moment each time, although there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's also a natural movement of like, especially for Tyler, his experience as a child from a father figure was so opposite of what he's experiencing with his own son. And also like the question for us as filmmakers exploring love, like in practice, where do you learn it from? And I think that's also the reason having Maxine, his mother, be the center of that.
Right.
Source of love and faith and endurance. So it's part of it.
And it is crazy because it shows how curious he was even as a child, just like you guys, son, because he says to him, why do you work so hard? And I recall Tyler saying like one of the main things he saw was his father's work ethic, even though we found out in the end, you know, again, I'm not going to give it away, but like that was something that he was always curious about. And then you see how hard Tyler works. And when it comes to filming, and it's just like, we're going to go, you're wasting time, you're wasting money if we're not going. So his work ethic has to be inspiring, not only to your son, but to everybody, including you two.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also like we had to take ourselves out of it. You know, Armani is now filming at the studio and he's doing a really incredible job. And also for me, knowing him for many years, I had to like make sure my own perspective didn't interrupt this process, you know? And also like the more we interviewed those people you mentioned earlier, and again, we didn't put the list together because they're famous. If you look at who they are, there's a like sort of like a track of these people are experts in their own experiences. We also wanted to include what came before Tyler, you know, touching on the Chitlin circuit and how African American performers had to use this sort of route to make a living for themselves before they went in mainstream and became bigger than, you know, any stars you can name. So that was also important for us.
Yeah. Well, you guys did your thing with it. We were just talking off camera. Me and Armani mentioned the fact that it's #1 on Prime Video.
Nice.
Number one movie on Prime right now.
So it's definitely an inspirational story about survival, overcoming, triumph, and just everything that you can be. So we applaud you guys for the job that you've done. We applaud Tyler Perry for the things that he's accomplished. We want to encourage everybody to go check out Maxines, baby, on Amazon Prime right now.
Ooh, it's a great documentary. And I'm not even a documentary type of person, but it's very inspiring.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you, like, no matter how successful you think someone is, like, they still have regrets or problems, or they still go through things, but still got to work through them and prevail. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you taking time to talk to us about it, and we wish you well.
Appreciate y'all.
We are the Morning Hustle.